I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, we got through that. And then I will ask our secretary to take roll.
Lisa Johnston. Oops.
Here.
I gotta get in here, sorry.
She's
There you
here.
go.
Yeah.
Sorry about that. Lisa Johnston.
Try it again, Lisa.
Here.
Dave Nichols.
Here.
Richard Etch. Meredith Howard.
Here.
Catherine Shalhoub. Carrie Trask.
Here.
And Kathy Willis.
Here.
Okay, we have a quorum. I know Richard is excused. He is on vacation, I believe, in Georgia. Probably enjoying the sunshine. So the first item then we have is to take action on the minutes from our March 23rd meeting. I would entertain a motion and a second to approve those minutes.
I move we accept the minutes as presented.
I'll second it.
Any additions or corrections? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay,
Aye.
the minutes are approved. I have no communications other than those that we receive from citizens, from parents, from whoever it is. Our next item is public input, and I will ask 3 times if there is anybody that wants to provide public input. Anyone want to provide public input? And a 3rd time public input, and public input is closed. Then we move on to our school showcase, and Stacy, that's you, Madison Elementary School. There you go. And again, you do have a gang along, which is really good.
I did. I brought the whole crew with me
There you
tonight.
go.
And
Thank you.
I said my goal was that I would do less talking and show off these amazing individuals I have at my building. So I am going to present my PowerPoint. So you'll get a chance to see that. And I am proud to be here today from Madison Elementary, Stacy O'Polly. This is my 6th year in the district, also summer school coordinator. So you'll see me at another meeting talking about all the great summer school opportunities as well. At Madison Elementary, we are a Kids at Hope school, which means that we believe all kids are capable of success, no exceptions. Every day when we are at Madison Elementary, or when we are virtual even, we start our day with the Pledge of Allegiance. And then the next thing we say every morning to get ourselves in the right mindset for learning is the I Matter Pledge. So Kezia, one of my 4th graders, has agreed to say the I Matter Pledge that we say every morning so you can hear how we start our day at Madison. So take it away, Kezia.
I matter. I am talented, smart, and capable of success. I have dreams for the future, and I will work hard and try my best every day to reach my goals and dreams.
Awesome job. Thank you, Kezia. That at Madison gets us in the right mindset for learning, helps us reinforce those positive attributes we know we all have, and just starts us feeling good about our day at Madison. I am going to talk about our school action plan today for just a little bit, and then I'm going to let my presenters really take it away and steal the show. So our most critical student learning outcome at Madison that we're working on this year is feedback. And it's that idea of giving and receiving feedback. And there's this guy, his name is John Hattie. He is what some people call like the holy grail of educators. And what John Hattie has done is he has conducted the largest evidence-based study on what are the greatest factors that influence student learning. So he studied everything from class sizes to strategies to just everything. And one of the things that he found is the greatest influencer on student learning is feedback. So if you look at the picture I have presented, you will see that the pink is like reverse effects. The yellow and green are typical or developmental. When we get to that blue zone, that's where the strategies we really want to use to move student learning forward. And you can see that line that shows feedback is a great way to move student learning forward. So I had the pleasure this last summer, one of the positive things that came out of the pandemic is I was able to attend the Visible Learning Conference that John Hattie hosted. So this holy grail of educators hosted a virtual conference. This normally is in like Los Angeles or Australia. I would never be able to go, but I was able to attend virtually. And I attended with Andrea Fries from Monroe and Heidi Schroeder from Riverview. And from this conference, we really thought we need to work on feedback and how we give feedback to kids and how kids receive feedback. So how does feedback affect teaching and learning, and how is that in our priority? So we at Madison, Monroe, and Riverview have been working collaboratively this year. So if you remember Andrea's presentation, I think back in January, she shared how all three schools are working collaboratively around these same goals and these same strategies. So I actually am going to pass the mic virtually to Shelley Bernhardt for a minute to talk about how this is working for her as a music educator.
So as a music educator, building-wide SLOs, they don't always align as we would hope. And certainly they're applicable, but do not always translate well. This year, however, our goal is one that I can really get behind. Feedback is applicable to my area in such an authentic way. And whether it's being given while kindergarten students are creating a song, or fifth graders performing within the blues form, second graders responding to a ballet performance of the Swan, or fourth graders turning to talk to one another about connecting traditions between African call and response to modern day jazz and pop. Feedback is an integral part of the artistic processes, and they speak directly to our Wisconsin State Music Standards. This year's goal makes me better. It makes kids better. And modeling and participating with purposeful feedback in music grows thinkers, questioners, and in turn, affectively changes our community and our world.
Thanks, Shelley. So one thing we're really excited about is that this goal really is applicable to everybody. People are excited about it. People own it. In our in the board packet, I know you received the presentation ahead of time, so you can see this really long written goal. If I was going to summarize it in one quick sentence, at Madison Elementary this year, we are working on giving good feedback to know where kids are in their thinking. So as educators, we can help move them forward, or to give them the feedback that if they're stuck, they know how to get forward and they don't give up. So we're going to measure that through some data, through some tracking, and through some practices that we have. How does it connect milestones of success that we have at MPSD? I wanted to really put like everywhere. It connects to everything. If we coaches give feedback, musicians give feedback, teachers give feedback. If we know if we can get really, really good at giving feedback, it's going to apply to all areas. It's going to help reading and math achievement. It's going to help grow kids in their learning to close those achievement gaps. So our 100-day benchmark, where we're at with the process and this feedback work that we've been doing, is we started with really helping our teachers understand what is effective feedback. What does good feedback look like? What does good feedback sound like? And we've used the 3 questions: where am I going? How am I going? And where am I going to next? So those have really been the 3 questions that frame our work. We also have talked about stuck strategies, which it happens to all of us, adults, and it happens to kids. When you get stuck, what do you do to keep moving forward? That we don't just shut down and say, I can't do it. It's too tough. I don't know how to spell that word. I don't know how to answer that question. How do we get through those stuck moments? And then how do we have a growth mindset? So a growth mindset is that whole idea that we can change and we can grow and we can learn new things, that we're not stuck in one way of thinking. My staff will laugh, and I actually have this green card right here next to my computer so I can use it on a daily basis. I think Angela's got hers right there. She's going to show us too. But this green card is our cheat sheet that we started with. Oh, Mrs. Williams, I see, has hers as well. These are the statements and the stems that we knew we had to practice to get better at giving feedback to kids. It takes work. And so we asked teachers to start with like one question. Practice one question and be really intentional about it and really help it to move forward. And then when they were good with that one question, they moved on to a second question. But if we get stuck as teachers and we're not sure what to do to give kids feedback to move learning forward, this is our tool to help us move forward. Speaking of getting stuck, we also know that teachers don't like to fail. We all want to get it right on the first try. And we've talked, Andrea, Heidi, and myself have talked with our staff of like, this is a growth project for us as well, to grow in our feedback and how we're giving feedback. So this is an example of one of our sessions that we did with the 3 schools. We asked teachers to rate themselves where they were on this continuum. And if you notice in the far left, somebody who can embrace failure. Somebody on the far right would rather eat a jar of rusty nails than fail at something. So we've even talked to staff about it's okay to fail as long as you're trying. So that same growth mindset that we're working on with kids. Our key action steps for Madison. Last year, our building goal really focused on the PLC, or professional learning community, question number 1, which is what do we want kids to know? And last year at Madison, our focus was really on what do the standards say and what goal am I setting for kids? And do kids know their goal? And how are kids going to work to their goal? So that was the work we really did last year. And we're continuing that this year with kids having goals. But the next layer we're adding now is the questioning of to get and give feedback, the stuck strategies, the embracing failure. As we've come back in a full 100% face-to-face model, the teachers have actually been tracking data about how they're doing with giving that feedback and did it change the child's trajectory. Now, we've only been back a few weeks, so that data is pretty new, but we're using it to reflect on our practice to know as educators, how do we need to do to move, what do we need to do to move forward? Now, the real stars of the show. I would like to first introduce Mrs. Williams, one of our 3rd grade teachers, and her student Sierra to share their experience.
Using our building goal, learning about and working on giving student feedback, I chose to connect my feedback to the question, what evidence do you have? This question connects to our English Language Arts 3rd grade standards of providing evidence when students are making predictions and talking about characters and character traits and developing thoughts and opinions about reading. This is essential work for lifting the level of reading and thinking of a 3rd grade student. Instead of just giving a prediction or just naming a character trait, students need to provide the evidence from the text to support and back up or prove their answers. In order to stress the importance of providing evidence, we've learned the importance of using the word because. I've taught multiple lessons and more than once worn my because t-shirt to really emphasize the point to make them remember to include more than just an answer, but to also include that evidence. Students have worked hard on thinking about their reading and growing their literacy skills and strategies, but also providing the because and the evidence from the book. When working with students, I'm able to provide feedback based on if they have provided the evidence and encourage them until it becomes automatic and natural, or to provide the strategies that they need to remember to include it. In our classroom, the use of because and giving evidence is not limited to just reading, but also used in math, writing, and has become the way we have a conversation in class. Always remembering to give the because evidence. I'd like to introduce my student, Sierra.
This year I have learned to use the word because to prove my answer. We use because when we need to describe something, or making a prediction, or teaching someone something. Using because and giving the proof makes me a stronger 3rd grader. Using bigger words and lifting my level of my words. It just makes sense to add and use because it proves what I am thinking.
Awesome job, Sierra. Awesome job, Miss Williams. Next, I'd like to introduce Mrs. Sloniker, one of our 4th grade teachers, and her student, Kezia.
In our classroom, we really focus on goals so that students have buy-in to the feedback that we're giving them. So in our classroom, we have year-long goals, reading goals, writing goals, and all the adults and the paraprofessionals that come in our classroom know what each student's goal is and give them feedback towards their goals so that we're all working on one goal with the student. So Kezia is going to talk about her goals in the classroom.
I have goals to encourage me to work hard. And my year-long goal is to respectfully stand up for others and not to give up. My reading goal is think about characters. So when I'm reading, I think about who the character is and how they change. My writing goal is spelling. I think to myself, how can I spell this word? And if I don't know how to spell it, I think to myself, how can I figure this out on my own?
And one thing myself and Danielle Schmidt, the other fourth grader, have come to realize that when we're helping students with their goals and giving them that feedback, if they have not developed that growth mindset yet, it can kind of result in the feeling of failure. So what we have been doing is taking a lot of time during our community circles each day and building that growth mindset with our students so that they have a growth mindset versus a fixed mindset. So Kezia is going to talk about how she has developed a growth mindset this year, and she is the perfect example of a student who has gone from a fixed mindset to a growth mindset.
Okay. We work on rephrasing our thoughts. Instead of saying I give up, I could tell myself to keep going and ask questions. We work on being positive about ourselves. For example, my friend told me when I wrote to success is blocked, I could always try and think of better things. We take breaks when we feel like we need them. Sonica points to a growth mindset sheet when we need a reminder. We do class activities to practice having a growth mindset.
As a fourth grade team, Danielle Schmidt and myself have realized with taking that time to work with students to develop that growth mindset, they're more open to that feedback that we are giving them. And now that students have a goal and every adult in the classroom knows that goal, they can give proper feedback to help the students reach their goals. So Kezia is going to now talk about how feedback has helped her in our classroom as well.
Miss Sonaker meets with us alone and in small groups. She asks us questions and makes us problem solve, makes us think and problem solve on our own. She gives us strategies to reach our goal and encourages us to use those strategies. She always says it's okay not to know, it's not okay not to try. Sonaker makes me work hard, and I told my class there's no learning without mistakes.
Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you, Sierra. Thank you, Kezia, for being here and showing your great work and your great mindsets for learning. We are engaging our families at Madison and letting them know about this work. We share weekly celebrations on our school Facebook page about learning opportunities and how we're applying our feedback work. We also share growth mindset opportunities for parents to use at home in our newsletters and on social media. So parents can apply these things that we're doing at school at home as well. And my grand finale, I have Angela Nelson here, who is our math coach. She is shared with Madison and Monroe. So she works in both of these buildings that are working on this feedback goal, and she's going to share a few thoughts with you as well.
Thank you, Stacy. As mentioned, we're working on feedback, and in my role as the math coach, I have kind of unique opportunity to spend a lot of time in classrooms observing teaching and learning pretty much daily. And it's been kind of a neat process to see many teachers have chosen math as their area to focus their specific feedback strategies with students. It's been incredibly exciting to see how the work that we've done in professional learning is sort of transferring to the classroom and becoming sort of a habit, if you will, for teachers teaching and students working in the classroom. So as mentioned, the feedback that teachers provide students is equally important to the feedback that students provide to their teachers and their peers regarding their learning and their level of understanding. Teachers elicit that type of feedback from students through that thoughtful, purposeful questioning. Lots of examples have already been shared. In math specifically, I observe this type of questioning pretty regularly. Questions like, how do you know that? Can you explain your thinking? Can we explain it another way? And many others have really become sort of second nature in the classroom. And this type of questioning encourages students to explain and reflect on their thinking, which is absolutely critical in effective mathematics instruction because it supports that sense making of those mathematical ideas and concepts. So really getting to that math understanding at a deep level, which is what we're striving for. Throughout the school year, the growth in the students and their ability to explain their thinking and connect to the big ideas of mathematics as well as mathematical models has been absolutely incredible. I think back to the beginning of the school year, we were starting with a new resource. We were starting in, a hybrid model, and all this work just kind of started beginning. And it was a little bit of a struggle. It wasn't something that was super comfortable. And there was some struggle, even with students responding to those questions to explain their thinking and tell me more and tell me how you know. But now at this point where we are in going into fourth quarter, because those types of questions have been so common in the classroom, the students are really running with it and growing, and it's really being powerful for their learning. The student success and growth is definitely attributed to the thoughtful, purposeful questions that the teachers are focusing on and their diligence on that feedback work that we're doing. And I truly believe that through this work, we're cultivating some amazing habits for our professional practice. And I am so excited to see where we continue to go at Madison.
Thank you, Angela. That's what I got. What questions do you have for us or anybody on the team?
Here's your chance, gang. Got anything for Stacy or anybody else?
Well, Stacy, I would be remiss if I didn't ask you about the question on the rusty nail screen.
Do you want to know? Yeah.
Did we spell that on purpose that way, or is that word failure?
It is spelled incorrectly on purpose. And it was actually really interesting when we were doing that professional learning with the teachers, because it was, like I said, it was Andrea Fries, Heidi Shorters, and myself. And all three of us fall at different spots on that continuum. Heidi goes head first into failure. She is not afraid to fail. Andrea is kind of in the middle, and I would rather eat the jar of rusty nails than fail at something. So we were able to share our own experiences with staff to know we're all at different points on that level, and we have different things we're working on as administrators as well. So failure is spelt incorrectly on purpose because that drives me crazy. Heidi Schroeders is totally okay with that.
Thank you for that clarification. I was worried there for a minute.
I really like the asking the because. I mean, I think even, at all levels of education, people are pretty quick with opinions, but they're pretty slow in some ways, trying to justify them, back them up, support them, etc. And so it seems to me that's the real key to kind of mental agility and the use of substantial knowledge to back up, a kind of a hypothesis, which is all an opinion is. I don't understand how that applies to music and math, however. Michelle, I don't know, how does that, I mean, do you ask your students, well, why are you saying that? Or to provide the because stuff?
I absolutely do. I oftentimes will use it in questioning about a particular item, and Kezia and Sierra can both speak to it. I might say, Kezia, is this a grouping of 2, 3, or 4? And she'll say, Ms. B, it's a 4. And I'll look to Sierra and say, Sierra, do you agree? And why or why not? And Sierra will say,
okay.
Yes, I agree, because you used 2 beats and X, Y, and Z. So the kids are getting really great about thinking in a big way, and not only applying it to their discussions, but putting it back on Mrs. B.
Wow. Yeah, I think that's really encouraging. I mean, that's really the sort of the fertile soil of analytical thought and higher reasoning. So
Exactly.
Nice job, Stacy. I congratulate you and your staff. You're doing a wonderful job over there at Madison. I'd also like to thank your 2 students for participating in the presentation tonight. You did a fabulous job. Thank you.
I knew I would let those rock stars just steal the show, and I was okay with that. So thank you for having us tonight, and thanks for supporting Madison.
Thanks, Stacy, and your staff and your students, and not just those that you had here, but all of your students and all of your staff. So we really appreciate it. So, okay, thank you. Well, we'll move on, and I guess it's my turn next because Richard isn't here to give the finance and budget report. So I'll have to come up with something here. Let's see. Okay, you should all have a copy of the minutes. We met on April 7th last week. We discussed the referendum results and also discussed the fact that even with the passage of the referendum at 4.3 million each year, that we will need to make some cuts to our expenses. And that's of course without knowing fully what our state funding will be for this coming year, but we're not anticipating enough to meet our revenues to meet our expenses. So we'll be looking at making some modifications there. We discussed what other districts have been doing with their referendums, perhaps taking a different approach the next time we have to do that, somewhere along the line. One of the things that will be positive for us is that the debt payment is going to end in 2024. That should help us significantly, assuming that we don't need to incur any more debt up until that point. Let's see here. We then discussed the CPI for the 21-22 budget. It's at 1.23% increase. And we discussed just a little bit about how that will impact the salaries that we offer our staff. That's the maximum amount we could give them is 1.23%. That would, if we approve that for the teachers, that would be a total of $321,763.73 additionally. Let's see, May 15th is the deadline to provide contracts to our teachers. And again, we mentioned that we need to cut an additional amount from our budget, even with the referendum passing. And let's see if there's anything else here that I need. If I can get to it here. No, I think that's about it. Any questions on the finance and budget meeting from April 7th? I would entertain a motion and a second to approve minutes from that meeting.
I would make a motion to accept the minutes from the budget committee.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Any discussion? If none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
I oppose.
Aye.
Okay, the minutes are approved. And then we'll move on to the report of the superintendent. And the first item will be the payment of vouchers, and that's Angela.
Hello, yes, in board book, you were provided with a list of voucher payments for the month. And we have for accounts payable, a total of $4,490,463.41. And payroll totals of $2,049,576.40 for the month. So we just need an approval for the accounts payable and the payroll for the month of March.
Anybody want to make a motion and a second to approve the vouchers as they've been presented?
Sure, I'll make a motion. We approve the budget, the vouchers as presented.
Do we have a second? Okay, any discussion on that item? If none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, the motion is carried. And Angela, you would have the monthly financial report as well.
Yes, and so moving on to that, this was also posted and provided in board book for you. Main highlights, we had a lot of our revenues come in within the last month. Our cash flow really varies throughout the school year. And so if you look at the equity end of month, which is the second last line on your report, we have $24 million in our accounts right now as of end of month. But like I said, that fluctuates greatly. You know, in November of a year, it'll be a lot lower because we're waiting on like taxes to come in January. June payroll, you know, that'll affect our cash flow greatly as well. So it just always ebbs and flows throughout the year. So very typical for this time of year. You will notice that, you know, like Fund 20 looks like it's in the negative, a large amount of money. One thing happens with school finance is that we always have to make a major transfer from Fund 10 into Fund 27 at the end of the fiscal year. So that will always look a little odd on our balance sheet until those transfers occur. So that's all very, very normal for where we're at with finances for this point of the year. Coming up this month, we'll get Common School Fund aid from the state. We'll also start receiving some of the CARES funds that we are submitting claims for. So that's we're making great progress on that, as I included in the superintendent's report. And then looking at just the revenues and expenditure reports, we added those comparisons for the current and the past fiscal year, and all of that is very much on track for this point in the year. We're starting to focus on finishing up spending with the budgets and working towards closing out the budget. So some parts will look like they have more expenditures than others, and it's very typical that we're finishing things up for the year. So happy to take any questions if you have them.
Any questions?
Angela,
Okay, thanks,
yeah.
Lisa.
My question is, Angela, the board member stipends that were always paid once a year. I believe they were paid, like the last part of April, before the, turnover of the board members. So I'm just wondering, where are we at with that?
I'm not sure, to be honest. I will check into that and I'll get back to you guys on that.
Okay,
So
thank you.
Angela, I'll just send you an email tomorrow, because I've been a part of that since that happened. It had to do with expenses that board members incur. I'll just get back to you tomorrow on it.
Okay.
I have better information on it, then I can get that to you. And then I'll send a copy to all the board members too, so.
Excellent, sounds good. One other thing I was going to mention, just with the reports that I had Margot do for us, is I had her separate out Fund 21 and Fund 27. And I just wanted to briefly go over Fund 21 is more of your fundraiser accounts. And so that's the Fund 21 accounts, what you'll see in those reports. And then the Fund 27 is special education. So just since the funds are so different in their nature and all the fundraising monies were moved over to Fund 21, I wanted to make sure to point that out and separate it so it wouldn't be confusing in the reports in the future. So that's all I have.
Okay, and Angela, just for your information, I don't know if I mentioned it to you last finance meeting, but you'll have a whole new finance and budget committee because Richard is leaving and Catherine is leaving, so you'll have a big over there. So get ready for that, okay?
We'll be ready for it. So
thank you. The next item is our personnel report, and I will turn it over to Joyce for that.
Yeah, good evening, everyone. Thank you. In board book, you should see the personnel report. You'll see that we did have a couple of more retirements from our couple of teachers. You'll also notice we are starting to post an interview and bring forward to the board some new hires for the 21-22 school year. So you'll see our first teacher that we've hired for next year. That's at Megan Vinny. But if anyone has any questions or comments, I can take those.
If there's no questions for Joyce, then I would entertain a motion and a second to approve the personnel report.
I move we approve the report.
I'll second.
Okay, any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Okay, the report is approved. Thank you, Joyce. Let's see here. Okay, I'll move on to the 2021 promotion of the commission. I'll turn it over to our superintendent.
Yeah, I think we've had enough conversation. At least we want to thank Richard for his service on the board. He has been with us for 3 years, and I think each of those 3 years we asked him to run for a seat. So we very much appreciate the work that he has done. Next board meeting, we'll welcome both Colin and Stacy to the board. And I just want to mention, I think if you haven't gotten an email, you will get one for Lisa and Carrie. that board members need to sign the oath of office prior to a 2-week meeting on Tuesday. So that the latest date that you should really do that is Monday. So if you would sometime between now and 2 weeks from Monday, connect with Lori. We do need to have that signature certified, and Lori can do that. She's a notary. But we just want to acknowledge that that transition will happen. During our board meeting tonight, we'll talk a little bit about the meeting on the 27th, specifically the election of officers. So there's a specific policy that we need to talk a little bit about during that time. And then again, just a grateful thank you to our public in regarding the passing of the referendum. I know there's lots of conversations, and board members and staff did their part in trying to communicate the need for the referendum. To kind of give you just a general idea, the actual data shows that we received 59% of the vote. And in a time where we had lots of different opinions about things going on, I think that was a very strong, positive message. And again, one of the things that we did see across the state in October, we saw 85% of referendums passed. And in April, we saw just under 60% of referendums passed. So there definitely was a turn there. And I know that the fact that we are going to be able to move forward will be supportive of our students and our community for years to come. So we're very appreciative of that. If we want to make some comparisons to the total votes, there was 300 more votes overall in 2018. And in 2018, we had 62%. And in 2021, we had 59.9. So again, when you think about the time we're in, the pandemic, the changing of lots of pieces and parts within our fiscal economy, I think we did a sound job and appreciate our community's support.
Okay, and then if you just want to move on to the superintendent and director's report.
So again, just a possible opportunity for board members to ask any questions, or if you want any clarification in regards to superintendent and director's report. And obviously, if you, sometimes those get a little bit lengthy, but if you at any time have questions specifically on those reports, please let us know.
The only question I would have for Angela, have we received any of those funds from the government yet that are allocated not only to our school, but to the other schools within our district?
We haven't quite received them yet, but we just submitted the first claims. So,
okay.
It's a process where you have to, just enter everything into the system, spend the money, and then claim it. So, and then you have to write descriptors too about how it will meet the needs of the students during the pandemic. So, yep, we have everything kind of organized for that, and working with the private schools as well to make sure that they have access to their funds and facilitate that.
So the same old usual government payment system where you incur the expense and they take their time, and someday they'll reimburse us.
Correct.
Right? Yeah. Okay. I knew that. I just wanted to be, the public to know that. That's how it works. Yep. Okay. Thank you.
Not a problem.
I do have a question, actually. If someone could explain to me what is the difference in the COVID funds that are ESSER 1, ESSER 3, and was it GUARD? I can't bring that part up, but I remember there are 3 different names for it. What are the differences?
So the ESSER funds were kind of the main funds that everyone, all school districts nationwide received, and in our state, that was the main set of funds that everyone received. Now the GEARS funds were, I think, only 156 districts across the state received those funds, and that was based on your poverty rates and your socioeconomic levels around, in your district. So we received those funds, and then, and there was equitable participation for the private schools for those funds as well. So the next set of funding that we will receive, because like all of our ESSER 1 is spent and we're working on the claiming of that, and then the GEARS are working on that. But then there's like ESSER 2 and ESSER 3. So those are funds that all school districts will also receive.
Okay.
And I'll let Mark add anything to that he'd wish.
Yeah, really the difference is the timing. So the initial, so it comes from the federal government. So the initial federal government stimulus plan is ESSER 1.
Okay.
The second government stimulus plan is ESSER 2, and this most recent government stimulus plan is ESSER 3.
Okay.
The GEARS comes from specifically your title allocation. And so as Angela said, about a quarter of the school districts in the state who have the most significant title needs received GEARS funds.
Okay. Thanks, Mark. And Angela.
Yeah,
Makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, I would articulate that we've had many conversations, and one of my concerns is not about the expenditure, but the actual time that our staff needs to take to actually make the budgetary adjustments to align to the exact expenses. So it's not that we're not grateful for the money, but anytime you have federal dollars, you have specific accounting responsibilities that you must follow. And so that might be something that we explore in the future to just get some support to help us with the monitoring, or maybe we're probably going to have to add some overtime hours to Margot, who's been doing this work, because it's not going to be reduced. It's going to be more detailed oriented pieces. Now the ESSER 3 funds does not include private schools. The ESSER 2 and ESSER 1 did. And that in of itself is a challenge because they need help spending title dollars. They literally need help. So we have people that, Angela works very hard. Before that, Sean was working very hard to help support their needs. And again, not our typical day, but in order to actually get your money allocated, you have to help support the others to get allocated. Otherwise, you can't get your money allocated. So it's not like they just write us a check and then they let us know that we're going to, how we spend it, right? And the other piece that's unique is, because we passed a referendum, we're in a position, but, if you're going to go about spending capital improvement dollars, so one of the areas that you can use ESSER on is looking at some of your HVAC and improving air quality. Well, you have to pay for that up front, right? And then submit that. And then get reimbursed, who knows, 6 months later. If you don't have resources or a balance to do that, I think in myself, it's kind of like the Menards rebate, right? It's always save big money, probably shouldn't acknowledge that, but you're going to get this 11% check at some point, right? I'm not sure when, and when you can get it, you can only spend it at that resource. You have to have some money in order to actually use this, and that is a little bit, we're okay because of that, but I'm sure there are other places that you actually go and borrow money to use, so you have the backing to use that, and we're not in that spot, so fortunate for us. Back on, we call that a 25-cent fine if you talk with your microphone off. Good thing you have a mask on, you didn't see my mouth moving. We'll move to the return to school update and just kind of give you a few things that are continuing and a few things that we continue to see. Well, first and foremost, I would tell you that we're seeing very little illness within our schools and within our staff, so we're grateful for that. We're continuing to use all medication strategies that we've seen before. I know that as we get better weather, our kids are spending a little bit more time outside, but I would articulate that we have a group that meets on Wednesdays and talks about health protocols, and we haven't made changes specifically to any of our health protocols, meaning we're asking kids to wear masks and staff. We're trying to provide social distancing where applicable. We're using hand sanitization, and we're doing everything we can to make sure people are feeling safe and acknowledged. But what I also can articulate is there are also lots of things that continue to go. On Sunday, we had about 110 folks who came to 4K open house. Last year, we didn't have open house. We had virtual open house, and so they were able to go 110 actually just to Riverview. There's 3 other sites that they get to go to. And that was exciting. The previous year, not last year, the year before that, we were more like 90. So one of the concerns that we have as a district is, where are the kids going? Are they coming back, and will they come to us? And so the initial 4K parent in observation says we might be all right and better than we have. So this is the first week of 4K enrollment. And the reason 4K enrollment is so important is because it sets the tone for the next 13 years. We generally gain about 30 students throughout their 4K roll. If that 4K comes in at 300, those students will graduate with 350 kids. If 4K comes in at 240, they'll graduate with 270 kids. That makes a difference for all of us. So that's important. If you're interested, there isn't tons of tickets. You almost have to know somebody, but we've got our musical. There is a live stream of that available. We talked a little bit about that before. So I want to say it's Thursday, Friday, Saturday. If you go on our website, you can take a look at that. There's a live stream. You can do it. There are some tickets available, but we give 4 tickets per performer and stage crew person, and they're socially distanced. And as my understanding is, those are a little tighter to get maybe than some of our other events. But that's pretty awesome. We have a full slate of activities. I know that got a text from Dave Stepak about our volleyball team is in sectionals and just won that. Got some football games going on. Our cross country team is running outside doing awesome. And believe it or not, not next week, but the week after, I believe baseball, softball, track, tennis, golf, all those activities start. So those are going on really well. We continue to have students engaging and learning, and we've got assessments coming up. So those are on the curriculum committee, I think, talked last time about the assessments that are coming up. So pretty soon our 1 through 8th graders will be taking their assessments. May 7th is the date, I believe, our 9th and 10th graders will be taking their assessments. So again, state assessments, that information is piece of what we use moving forward. So again, just lots of positive things moving forward. Friday is our elementary, or this actually tonight, this Thursday, and then Friday is elementary conferences. Again, another opportunity to give parents feedback. So we're kind of getting back into the routine of things that maybe had been absent for a period of time or a little bit different, and we're excited about that. Just some positive things going on. I just also would, if I could add to the school update and report, maybe this isn't perfect, but I send out all the board members some new board member training that's available through WASB. So just wanted you to be aware of that. If you're at all interested in that WASB, and if you go on their website, they have a lot of other things linked on there. So if you're interested in something more specific than new board members, if you've been here for a little while, that's fine. But just wanted to make sure I remind you of that. That's my report.
Okay, thank you, Mark. Next item, we don't have any unfinished business that I'm aware of. Then I'll move on to new business. The first item is the Association for Equity and Funding, and that is that's an association that reached out to me. We at one time belonged to this association. There is a fee to belong to it. They have a website. It's waef.net, and it's headed by I believe a group in Denmark School District. Is that correct, Mark? Or that's the person that leads it?
The Denmark superintendent used to, but actually I think in January they hired a new executive director.
Okay.
But anyway, that's where it came from.
Okay. Well, anyways, they reached out to me, and they're obviously they're looking for money. They want us to join again, rejoin. There are a lot of districts that do belong to it, and I just wanted to put on the agenda to see, if there was any feelings from this group to move forward. I know you don't have a lot of information. I'm not going to give you everything right here. I would ask you probably just to look at their website, and maybe it can come back again at the next meeting and we can discuss it further. I don't recall exactly what the cost is, but I don't know, Mark, do you remember what it is? It's based on your student enrollment. And we would have a higher cost because we are one of the higher enrollment districts.
Yeah, I
So
would,
what do they do? I mean, are they a lobbyist group or what?
Yeah, they are, Carrie. They're effectively a lobbyist group. What they're looking at is, they call it equity and funding, because of the disparity in reimbursement rates for districts, including ours, obviously. They lobby the legislature on our behalf. I don't
They
want to.
they haven't had very much influence.
Exactly. Well, they've had
Yeah.
input, but they haven't had any success, right? I mean,
Yeah,
since
exactly.
1994, since we had an increase. But I don't want to steer anybody in any direction here. I just want to present it, and I want you to maybe go to their website, maybe collect some information. I can send it to you tomorrow, a link, and we can discuss it further. I just wanted to bring it up as a possibility. We may or may not want to go in that direction.
Dave, I'd like
Yeah.
to hear some of the history behind when we were part of that group and like why we chose not to be any longer. If you could provide that maybe at the next meeting.
I doubt that I'd be able to do that because it's been long enough, and we were not a member of it during my term. And so it probably would be difficult for me to come up with that information.
Okay.
I don't know who to contact about it. Perhaps Ken Mishler, but he's gone, he's retired. So yeah, so I probably can't do that for you. The best I can tell you is that at one time we were a member, we're no longer a member. They do have a website with a lot of information on it. And a contact person that you could contact as well. I'll get that information to you tomorrow. And then you can go from there. So I can only assume that we dropped off because of funding issues. It was just another expense that we felt wasn't necessary and wasn't helping us. So, all right. Okay. The next item would be to set the date of our organizational meeting. Now, we're required to do that within 30 days of the election. Our next board meeting would be on April 27th. I just told Mark I'm not able to make it at 11:30 as he's got on the agenda. So I wouldn't be able to get here till noon. It doesn't take normally it doesn't take very long. What we do though is we elect our president, vice president, and secretary. That becomes our executive committee, obviously. It would be helpful if everyone were here, because if we have a contested election for any of those spots, it's much easier for Lori to take the votes here rather than trying to do it over the internet. We did that last year. And we got it to work, but it's a bit cumbersome. And on the other hand, if nobody's contesting the election, then it's simply a matter of approving a motion. But what I really want to know is, does anybody have any thoughts or any concerns with holding this, or should we do it as we've always done it in the past? We just ask for nomination, doesn't have to be seconded, and then we vote. We can do it by secret ballot, we can do it by open ballot.
Is that the whole? That's not the whole agenda, is it?
That's just for the organizational portion of it.
Okay, that's just for the organization.
Yeah, we would do that first.
I really think we should be there in person, especially since we have new people coming on.
Looking here, it would be easy for us to socially distance.
Sure.
So that's not a problem. I just want to make sure everybody's comfortable getting here. I don't want to.
That is the one day I can come, so yes.
Yeah.
We're golden.
So. Anybody got any questions on the organization meeting? How it works?
Just to add one quick piece is that our board policy, I'll start the meeting and then I'll run the meeting until we elect a president, and then I'll turn it over to the president. And again, I'll just ask for nominations for president, and then we pause, and then if there's a nomination, and I ask, is there any other nominations, and we pause. And then typically what we've done is we give you a ballot and you write down the name. Lori comes over and picks it up. And I think in the past, the business manager was the witness. They count the ballots, and then we have a president. And then we do the same thing for vice president, same thing for treasurer. We also have to, I hope you agree, board has to take action to have Lori be the board secretary, and I believe we need to take action on a treasurer that is not the board, which is Angela. So we'll, I mean, there's our formality, right? I suppose you could choose to pick whoever the treasurer is, actually be the district treasurer, but probably don't want to do that. Just saying. That's a little bigger job than they might volunteer for.
And then just so you're aware, then the new committees are formed after that, and the president of the school board has the authority to form those committees. And they would be announced sometime after that meeting. Because we usually don't do it during the meeting.
So Dave, are you saying we would go ahead and start at noon then instead of 11:30? Is that what?
Well, I wouldn't be able to make it until noon.
Sure.
Just so you know, you can start it earlier.
Yeah, noon is fine. I just need to be gone by 1:45. So.
Okay. Well, if Mark is running the meeting at the beginning, then it's his fault if it goes over.
You just need to make a light agenda that day.
Right. Well, yeah, we can.
I do recall a meeting that Lisa Johnston ran during the pandemic was done really quickly.
It was. It was super fast.
There you go. All right. Yeah, he'll pay for that. All right. The next item is our Equity Advisory Ad Hoc Committee. And Meredith, do you have some minutes to or some information from that meeting to present?
Yeah, I can certainly share what we've been chatting about. We came together at the end of March, the end of March, and we had set kind of our mission statement and started moving towards setting some goals. How would this advisory committee function in the future now that we knew what our mission was set out to do? And so we looked at some short-term goals, we looked at some long-term goals, and I can list those off for you. I didn't see that they were in board books, so I'll just kind of share some of those with you and then where we're headed next. So some of the goals that we shared is that we want to support a student diversity and equity and inclusion club. So again, being very supportive of that kind of extracurricular. We talked a lot about including an equity question in the interview process when hiring all employees. Right now, there's not necessarily a question about interaction with diversity and equity within the interview questions. We talked about providing a statement of support as well as continuation of the day route training that 30 of our district leaders have been working through this year and plan to continue to work through next year. We want to make sure that we're encouraging parent engagement and involvement. And then we talked about doing a walk through our buildings and looking at the artwork displayed in the hallways, looking at the role models that are seen throughout our buildings, and potentially looking at getting some additional portraits of other leaders from other walks of life. And one of the things we looked at was, do we begin to buy some different posters? We talked about Martin Luther King. We talked about some other leaders, more so diverse leaders than just honestly a lot of dead white presidents. And so we're looking for some updating in that. We also talked about potentially having another member of the board be appointed, not elected, but potentially being appointed, who could come from a diverse background and be able to be representative of more of our school community. And so that was something that we just started the discussion. We didn't end the discussion yet, but wanted to definitely bring that up again. So we're looking at those goals, we're looking at timetables, and we're gonna start getting into those goals a little bit more and seeing what's feasible and where we want to head next. Any questions about that team?
Okay, thank you, Meredith. And then the last item, or the second last item, is our future meeting dates. I believe the curriculum committee has a meeting on Thursday. So that's the only meeting I'm aware of. Again, this is a challenging time to put committee meetings together before our organizational meetings, so we might have to wait till after that. If there's nothing else anyone wants to add, I would ask for a motion and a second to adjourn. Nobody wants to do that?
Oh, I'll do it. Let's make a motion
Okay.
to adjourn our meeting.
Anybody want to second that?
I'll second.
Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. We are adjourned.